Hi girlies, and welcome to this lecture. It was meant to be an essay, but Greta Gerwig was too powerful to be contained, so my essay became too long and it's a lecture now. I'm Professor Pink, and I'm a cool tutor who lets you have a sandwich at the back of the class. Let's start with the characters, and we'll begin with Barbie herself. Barbie is everything. She can be a fashion model and an astronaut and the president. She's the Barbie you think of when you think of Barbie. Blonde, white, skinny, and pink. Barbie is malfunctioning. Flat feet, cellulite, where does it end? This is the Barbie we follow through her highs and lows. Stereotypical Barbie is the genesis for all the ideals from which spawned lawyer Barbie or diplomat Barbie and also mermaid Barbie. Stereotypical Barbie represents what it means to be a Barbie. And what does that mean? This is the Barbie we follow on a happy day in Barbie Land, driving her pretty pink car, lying on the beach, and having a dance party with her Barbie friends. But this is also the Barbie we follow into the real world, where she discovers that Barbies have made little girls feel bad about their bodies. An article from the Daily Mail lays out a debate on Good Morning Britain about whether Barbie is a feminist icon, noting on one side that Barbie's vlogs from recent years discuss women's issues such as apologizing too much, or how Barbie has had over 200 careers. But on the other side, it points out how Barbie has been criticized for her impossible build. Ultimately, the right thing to do is to acknowledge both. Barbie's excellent contributions to the world of feminism cannot be dismissed in a conversation of her negative impact. But also, in order to move forward and do better, we can't brush her complicated past under the rug. But how does one woman, one Barbie, carry this burden on her shoulders? Barbie's struggle in the movie comes from fears of imperfection, but maybe she has to learn to be imperfect in order to move forward. Stereotypical Barbie has the burdens of her past and also the hope for her future, the latter of which is reflected in what she is designed to be: pink, perky, and perfect. She has to be both. She has to be both. You cannot focus on one and disregard the other. It is unfair to forget one side over another. Like it says on her poster, Barbie is everything. Point for discussion. Is it right that one woman has to carry so much? Is that a good representation of the female experience? Is Barbie a feminist icon? Or is she a cause of eating disorders on two long legs? But if Barbie is everything, where does that leave Ken? Well, according to Ryan Gosling, Ken is face down in the mud next to a squished lemon, which is where he found his daughter's Ken doll. He's just Ken. Ken gets to live in a bliss of zero expectations. His job is beach. Even he doesn't know what that means. And he only has a good day if Barbie looks at him. To quote Ryan Gosling, his job for 60 years has been beach. What the f does that mean? I kept finding their Ken dolls discarded, so the whole idea that nobody plays with Ken is true. I was surprised that some people were kind of clutching their pearls around my Ken, as if they ever thought about Ken for a second before this. Ken exists as an afterthought. What does it mean to be a Ken? Barbie is president. Barbie is a construction worker. Barbie is a doctor. What does beach mean? Every day is a good day for Barbie, but Ken only has a good day if Barbie looks at him. Luckily for Ken, Barbie is inclined towards looking at him, but it sets up Ken's position from early on. Ken is just Ken. He means about as much to Barbie, and every Ken means just about as much to every Barbie as their purses or their shoes, because Ken is an accessory. Jokes have been made about how his legal name is And Ken, because he only exists if he's with Barbie. Barbie admits to having no idea where Ken, or the Kens in general, live. When Ken gets to the real world and discovers the patriarchy, he is seeing for the first time a world in which he can see people who look like him in positions usually held by people who look like Barbie. Ken represents something greater than he would ever think he could in this movie. The dream gap. More on that later. Of course, Beach Ken is not the only Ken, and we have to address the Kens because of how the hierarchy in Barbie Land is revealed through them. The Kens include as many big names as the Barbies, boasting Marvel's Shang-Chi, Simu Liu, and Doctor Who's Judy Gatwa among their numbers. Yet their role in the movie is simply as accessories to Barbies. Simu Liu's Ken exists as a rival to an accessory, so where does that put him in the hierarchy? Ryan Gosling's Ken's job is beach, which doesn't mean much, but he does have something he's good at. Simu Liu's Ken is Ryan Gosling's Ken's rival for stereotypical Barbie's affections, but what is he aside from that? And what are the other Kens? Do they have jobs? One of them is a lifeguard at a plastic beach that it's impossible to drown in, and is inhabited by merfolk. They exist to be looked at and admired, but Barbie admits to not being in love with Ken. If every night is girls' night, did the Kens have the autonomy to have boys' night? Is it any wonder that they fall so quickly victim to the patriarchal mindset, seeing what it could represent for them? He's just Ken. What are the factors that make a good Ken? What should a Ken be? Even though there are many other Barbies too, the biggest Barbie girl of the movie is America Ferrera's character Gloria. Gloria. She's a Barbie girl living in the real world. She ain't plastic and her life's not quite fantastic. But to Barbie, Gloria is everything. Everything isn't every job under the sun. Everything is the wide spectrum of the human experience. Gloria is a Barbie girl. She grew up playing with Barbies. She played with Barbies with her own daughter. She notes to Weird Barbie that she too had a weird Barbie from having played with her Barbie too hard. And she now works for the company that makes Barbies. Gloria seems to be working her dream job, working relatively high up for the company that creates the beloved Barbies she grew up with, and that she has such happy memories playing with her daughter Sasha. But the aspect of play and imagination is missing from her life since Sasha started to get moodier. Gloria has big ideas, even if they're reflecting her slipping mood, and yet she's still outside the door in which an all-male board of Mattel executives is in charge. She's the one whose grand speech about what it means to be a woman is what inspires Barbie to reclaim Barbie Land, and she therefore inspires the hope that Barbie inspired in her as a child. Gloria represents Barbie almost better than the stereotypical Barbie does. Gloria presents the idea of ordinary Barbie, who just wants to get through the day, and to Barbie, to stereotypical Barbie, that's what Gloria represents. Their journeys mimic each other. Gloria sees Barbie and sees all of the potential she represents. She sees her childhood dreams, and she sees the memories of playing with her as a child and all of the memories of playing with her together with her own daughter. To Gloria, Barbie represents happy, nostalgic memories and is something overwhelmingly positive. But to stereotypical Barbie, Gloria's ordinary Barbie represents everything Barbie wants to be, no longer the imagined but the imaginer. She sees Gloria living her human life, a life that will eventually end, but so full of ups and downs and love and every emotion. And she sees that the same potential that she herself represents to Gloria. Gloria is played by America Ferrera, who is best known for her role as the title character of the sitcom Ugly Betty, who worked for a fashion magazine and was surrounded by the world of the beautiful and feminine, but who stood out for being, quote-unquote, imperfect. Ugly Betty was never ugly. She just had glasses and braces. I wonder if Greta Gerwig, and indeed Margot Robbie, had America in mind for that reason, as Betty is marked out for her quote-unquote imperfections, just as Barbie starts off by fearing imperfections and then starts craving them by the end of the movie. Having her represent the message of this movie captures it and emphasizes it in a game of IMDb intertextuality. Sasha is not a Barbie girl, not anymore. She represents the other side of the argument. She represents how girls grow up no longer carefree little girls, but now grown up and jaded. Sasha is also the name of a Core 4 Bratz girl who challenged Barbie's ranks in the fashion doll scene. Life in plastic might not be so fantastic. Sasha and her friends haven't played with Barbies for years. They blame Barbie for eating disorders and unrealistic body standards for women. Sasha also rejects her mother's efforts to connect with her because she doesn't want to be a Barbie girl anymore, reflected in her dark wardrobe compared to Barbie and Gloria in pink. Gloria's daughter Sasha reminds us of the earlier point that point out the flaws that Barbie has had in the past, as the brand is imperfect and has seen a significant amount of criticism over the years. But as the film progresses and she is able to reconcile that view with all the good sides and join her mother's crusade to fix Barbie Land. Growing up as a girl has its complications, and surely Sasha is a relatable character to many. As touched upon also, while I will not be putting words into Greta Gerwig's mouth, it is noteworthy to me that she has the name of one of the most popular Bratz dolls. Bratz gave Barbie a run for her money with rebellious, gratitude-serving girls with a passion for fashion, who topped Barbie in sales for a time with their edgy, trendy style that was current to the early 2000s, at just the same time as Barbie was releasing Nutcracker, a classic fairy tale. Sasha has a character that challenges Barbie's positive outlook, just like Sasha the doll challenged Barbie's place on toy shelves. And then there's Alan. There's only one Alan, but not because he's unique, because he's forgettable. According to Alan, 5 Alans escaped Barbie Land to form NSYNC and no one noticed. He's an outsider in Barbie Land, not as far as Weird Barbie, but as skimmed over as Midge. He exists only as Ken's buddy. There's only one Alan. Point for discussion. What makes a good ally? Alan is an outsider. He was quickly discontinued, but seems only to have escaped being relegated to the Weird House because he's Ken's buddy. Alan exists on the outskirts of the Kens, certainly more of a Ken than a Barbie, but both groups tend to overlook him. It is through being slightly on the edge of Barbie Land society that Alan avoids the lure of the patriarchy, as he doesn't fit in with the Kens. In terms of feminism, Alan is an ally. It's almost exactly there in the name. He is on the side of the Barbies, aiding them in their defense against the Ken coup d'etat. There are also queer analyses of Alan that will not be here and expanded upon, but some suggestions include that a buddy who fits in all the same clothes reads as gay, and that being on the outside of the binary of Ken and Barbie reads as being outside the gender binary. Ruth Handler, based on the actual Ruth Handler, the creator of Barbie in 1959. Possibly the most important character in this movie. Without her, none of this exists. Is she a deity? What is it to be the creator of Barbie? Ruth Handler is almost deified by Barbie, and rightfully so, as without her, none of them would exist. In fact, Mattel is her company that she started with her husband and their business partner. She is also responsible for the creation of prosthetic breasts for women who have had mastectomies. Ruth Handler, as the creator of Barbie, plays such an important role in the film. The deity-like grandmother figure who shares her wisdom with stereotypical Barbie and gives her the agency to make decisions for herself that she didn't think possible. With Ruth's guidance and her own will, Barbie becomes human and gets to experience the one ending that humans have laid out for them. Mattel CEO and the execs. Men. Yep, they're all men. The Mattel higher-ups are men, representing, of course, the patriarchy, and that's kind of it. These are the real-world representations of what Ken perceives patriarchy to be. They are in charge. They are exclusively in charge, just as Barbies are in Ken's reality. They represent Ken's radicalization of what Ken needs to see in his own world. Men, or Kens, in power. There's nothing more to say about the Mattel men than they represent the patriarchy. Why is it that Gloria, a true Barbie girl, is sat outside while it is Will Ferrell at the head of the all-male table? Why are the dreams of little girls being fed by men? As we see too, these men are the ones in charge, but they are largely fairly incompetent. They as a group can't coordinate efforts and overwhelm Barbie as she escapes with relative ease. She even manages to stop for tea with Ruth Handler. Moreover, their journey from the real world to Barbie Land seems to take significantly longer than Barbies with Ken or Gloria and Sasha, and yet they're in charge. This of course feeds further into the dream gap, which is such an important aspect of a modern day Barbie, as well as my understanding of this movie. Weird Barbie in the Weird House household. Weird Barbie is the oracle. She holds all the information about the real world, the portal to the real world, and the connection between Barbies and the little girls who play with them. She is a Barbie who is played with too hard and now has the choppy hairstyle and has been drawn on, as is visible in her introductory appearance. The Weird House is full of rejects, the discontinued dolls, with the only exceptions being Ellen and Midge. Weird queer? The Weird House is the source of knowledge, but it's also a community of outcasts who don't fit into Barbie and Ken mold and have been discontinued and rejected. It is also home to various other discontinued and rejected Barbies and Kens, including the questionable Skipper doll and Earring Ken. Discuss. Are the Weird House inhabitants queer? Are these characters rejects because they're queer? And also, why is the queer community the fountain of knowledge? Have some food for thought. Kate McKinnon herself is LGBT+. The article Birkenstocks and the Power of Being an Unfashionable Queer from intomore.com suggests that the Birkenstock used to represent the truth also associates weird Barbie with queer fashion. Earring Ken can have a similar queer implication. All in all, they do emphasize the cracks in Barbieland's feminist utopia, as the intersectionality is imperfect. Let's move on to some of the key themes in the movie. To get the obvious out of the way, this movie is feminism incarnate. Pro: women in a variety of usually male-dominated positions of power, from trade skills to the president. The feminism of the Barbie movie is pretty obvious from the earliest introduction of Barbieland. There's a woman as president with a team of women behind her, and that's just one of the positions of a female-dominated world. The feminism is intersectional too, with one Barbie with a golden prosthetic to match her golden accessories, and a Barbie in a perfect pink wheelchair. Harry Neff, a trans woman, plays Dr. Barbie, and the Barbies come from a number of races and ethnicities as well as body type. The Kens are also equally diverse in appearance. But the point is that the feminism is imperfect, because there are many issues with gender equality in the real world, and the highest ranking Ken seems to be Lifeguard Ken. There are other cracks evident in the feminist utopia, because there is one particular non-working woman who is overlooked, Midge. It was doing the most feminine of tasks societally of childcare, or at the very least acting as a metaphor for it. Arguments over whether a pregnant doll is weird or not aside, I hope Midge can get a bit more acceptance in the new Barbie land. It's intersectional. Barbies and Kens both come in different backgrounds, builds, and abilities. Cons. In the flip of the real world, the men have very little contribution to their own society. Pregnant Midge is overlooked and sidestepped. Is her role as mother not also valued? Intersectionality. The complex, cumulative way in which the effects of multiple forms of discrimination, such as racism, sexism, and classism, combine, overlap, or intersect, especially in experiences of marginalized individuals or groups. Race. The Barbie cast includes, but is not limited to, Issa Rae, a black woman playing President Barbie, whose styling is similar to President Barbie of 2020, and Vridu Arya, an Asian woman as journalist Barbie, who has had a few iterations. Ability. Note, as a failure on behalf of the lecturer, the titles of the Barbie, the prosthetic, and the Barbie in the wheelchair were not found. However, screenshots are therefore included on the next slide. Sexual gender identity. Speculation. Alan and the Weird House Barbies and Kens represent LGBT+ inclusion. Actual cast. Kate McKinnon, Alexandra Shipp, Harry Neff, and Scott Evans are openly LGBT+. Due to the film still being in cinemas, these are poor quality screenshots from the trailers. Moreover, while these are not prominent characters in the movie, they are based on existing dolls as seen below. Don't pit girls or boys against each other. You have to stop calling each other and It just makes it okay for guys to call you mean girls. If we are ever to have true equality, we cannot force members of any sex or gender category to compete for social standing. Discussion. What are some ways in which men or women are pitted against each other? Matriarchy, patriarchy, equality, and respect. We start with a Barbie land that appears to be a feminist utopia of women who rule, who feel, and who share together the spoils of their efforts. But when we learn of the trouble slowly but surely, the alternative was the, opinion, utter hellscape of the Kendom, which diminished women's positions in turn. The solution was the promise of a slowly improving Barbie land, which will hopefully move to give respect to the previously voiceless Kens. Ultimately, the message is we cannot have dominance of one sex or another, and it's gender equality that will move things forward. And, most importantly, respect. Back in the box. Putting Barbie into a metaphorical box. Will Ferrell's character and the other higher-ups at Mattel talk about how catastrophic it would be if Barbie got out and try to transport her back to Barbie Land in her box. A metaphor for how we mustn't put women or Kens into boxes of what they can or can't be. Barbie can be anything. Barbie is everything. She cannot be contained. The symbol of the box is also something that Barbies will have to escape in order to advance their feminism in their society. And the actual physical box that they try to put Barbie back into is a literal manifestation of that concept. Ultimately, Barbie must escape the box that she has been put into. Stereotypical Barbie's role is to be perfect as the representation of everything a Barbie is. Though a Mattel CEO says it would be catastrophic if Barbie were to escape into the real world, that is where she chooses to stay, closing her box behind her. This leads us perfectly into the final and most important point of today's lecture, and the important problem that Barbie has been fighting to fix over the past few years. Dictionary.com defines the dream gap as a phenomenon where young girls, due to social constructions that women are less capable and valuable than men, are held back from living up to their full potential. The key conflict of the Barbie movie involves the Barbies taking Barbie Land back before the Kens can complete their coup d'etat. What spurns Beach Ken towards the coup in the first place is his discovery of the patriarchy within the real world, a place in which he sees men like him in positions of power, something that he recognizes as different and unusual compared to Barbie Land. This is not Ken trying to create the toxicity of the patriarchy, as is made clear by his belief that horses are such a big part of the patriarchy. He doesn't fully understand it and just wants the same level of respect that he perceives the men of the real world to have, and that the women of Barbie Land have. Ken has never seen a man in any of these positions. His job is to stand on the beach and look pretty. Ken is the embodiment of the dream gap. The dream gap stems from girls seeing the breakdown of society and how that works against their progression. Seeing women in positions of power encourages girls to seek and desire positions of power, and Ken has never witnessed that. Lesson 5 of the Dream Gap curriculum is the career compass, which encourages kids to believe that they can be anything and explains why exploring lots of careers is important. If Ken had had that lesson, would Beach Ken have seen the men of the real world as powerful or as overpowered compared to their female counterparts? If little girls had this message generations ago, would the Dream Gap project be needed today? A note as well on how we treat women and how we compare them to one another, which is a direct result of the dream gap. Part of the Barbies' plot to take back Barbie Land involves them working on the Kens' jealousy towards the other Kens based on certain Barbies' affections. This pitting of the Kens against each other did work in the Barbies' favour, but it speaks to a wider societal problem of women being pitted against each other for positions in society and jobs, or worse, for male affection. This isn't about sport and games or even going for the same promotion. This is about desiring for another person to fail where you succeed. The blog The Unedit says, "It's been ingrained into our society that girls should be jealous of other girls. We should always be unhappy about a girl who is more popular than us. We flip through magazines or scroll through social media feeling bitter about any girl's figure we rank above our own. Why does it seem so bold to say that? We should not only stop with the comparisons, but we should actually feel good about other people's success." Getting back to the film, what happens to the Kens? The Barbies pit them against each other in order to regain their positions and have them compete for female attention. We learn by the end that stereotypical Barbie is not interested romantically in Beach Ken, and seemingly not in any Ken, and yet the Ken's feelings for the Barbies were so crucial to saving Barbie Land. The Dream Gap and Ken. Ken is lost with no guide. Ken needed to see people who looked like him in important roles in society. Ken is the victim of the matriarchy as much as young girls today in the real world, not just the capitalized real world of the movie, are victims of the patriarchy. Ken is the dream gap. Little girls are the dream gap. And the movie conveys brilliantly why the dream gap must be closed. There are a lot of takeaways from this movie. It's perfectly pink and just a fun time as advertised, and yet it will make you cry with rage at the patriarchy and how girls all over the world are failed, just as Ken was failed. I laughed, I cried, I laughed again. And there are truly enough aspects of this movie to make 2 lectures, and frankly, I would design an entire university course on the Barbie cinematic universe. But as I say in the YouTube algorithmic universe, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you girlies soon. If you like this format, perhaps I'll even see you in another lecture. But for now, class dismissed.